So hello, welcome back to Going and Gaming. My name is Az, and today we're going to be doing another Age of Sigmar video here on the channel. And yeah, just really documenting our journey and our discovery of this game and our sort of learning along the way as well. Because lo and behold, I played another game last night. It was a very, very long game, 4 hours long. There might be some footage interlaced on this video with regards to some of that action. But it was cool. We play at Atomic Cards here in Swindon. Nice little game store, and you have loads of tables for miniatures games at the back there. So yeah, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in there for the foreseeable future by the looks of it. But yeah, me and Josh played our second game. We played our first game last week, and again, I documented that game as well to a certain degree on the previous Age of Sigmar videos. You can go and check that out. And in that game, we weren't using hardly any rules, to be honest. We weren't using any battle tactics whatsoever. We weren't using the command points in the last game. There was loads of things that we weren't really using that well. So yeah, the command points and the battle tactics really did come into effect in this game. There's a few things that we missed, which I'm gonna go through now with you, and hopefully flash up some images as well, so you can see what I'm referring to. But the first one is quite a big one. So there's something known in the Warhammer community, or described as the double turn in a game of Age of Sigmar. So this is when you essentially have back-to-back turns as a result of your priority roll at the start of each turn, where you determine who the active player is, unless there's any other sort of underdog shenanigans going on. But this basically means that you can take 2 turns in a row, which is very preferential in this game, and we weren't playing it yet again. So when we started the game, after we set up our terrain and all that sort of stuff, we determined who the active player was going to be, and that was just rigid. That was regimented throughout the entire game. So I think Josh went first in this game. Actually, I think it might have been me, but just for argument's sake, let's say Josh goes first. He takes the first turn, then it's me, and then we just played that it was Josh as the entire time. But depending on the priority roles and determining the active player and a few underdog shenanigans and stuff, and a few other abilities I imagine as well, haven't encountered them yet, but maybe there is, you can actually switch that order around. So it could go Josh as Josh, Josh as Josh. So the sort of phrase that's known in the community is you can take a double turn, which is pretty good apparently, but we haven't experienced that yet. None of us have experienced the aforementioned double turn. So it'd be interesting to sort of try and utilise that going into the next games that we play, and making sure that whenever we start a new battle round that we determine who the active player is via a priority roll. So that's something that we need to do, because we didn't do that this time round. So yeah, battle tactics were used in this game. So battle tactics, we did forget them every now and again. So battle tactics are something that you choose at the start of your turn to award you extra victory points, basically, apart from what you're contesting on the board with regards to objective markers, which are set out in the battle plan that you're playing. There's another thing called battle tactics, which will allow you to score 4 points if you complete that battle tactic. And there's quite a few different battle tactics in there. There's like one where you have to kill a unit that's in your enemy general's regiment, which was claimed by Josh a couple of times, I think, during the game. There's also a battle tactic which I claimed called Seize the Centre, where you have to try and take the very central objective. And there's loads of other ones in there as well, like take the flanks and sort of attack on 2 fronts, and loads of other things that you can do, which will give you the ability to score points without having to hold objectives, which is something that we haven't really taken advantage of a lot, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see how we can really sort of get to know those battle tactics, and how that can sort of influence our turns going into our turns, and what we do or try and do with our command points on the defense or the reactive reactive side of us. So yeah, going to be interesting to delve into that more, and also with regards to the battle tactics are very important, because they score 4 points for each one that you complete. So yeah, they are very important to try and get ahead and try and sort of really lean into what your army is trying to do, whether that's trying to kill units, trying to hold things if they've got ward saves, and all that sort of thing. So yeah, need to try and lean into that more. And also with regards to another thing that we missed was within the battle plan, there are also twists which will either sort of change where objectives are, or just throw a bit of a spanner in the works with regards to how the objectives are scored. So that's another thing that we didn't really use, which are outlaid on the battle plan. But albeit this is the thing, right? You've got this whole core book in front of you for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. You skim through it and try and read little bits here and there to just try and get the game going, but you forget there's so many extra bits that you keep missing out on. So it's just building those blocks up and up and up until you can get the whole picture. But the games are getting better each time we play. So as that happens, we're going to be able to sort of build to playing the actual game. And I'm actually considering playing in a beginner's sort of newbie-friendly tournament, not this weekend, but the weekend after. So if I do, again, I'll be try and document my experiences with that as well. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I'm very, very much considering it. So yeah, battle tactics are very important, and the battle plans and the battle twists that happen within there, all things that change and will dictate where you can get extra points from, which is how you win this game. And the game that me and Josh played, there might be some footage sort of interlaced in this video, was very, very close. It came down to Josh beating me by 2 points. So if I was making the use of the battle tactics more, the twists more and stuff, maybe I could have got extra points. As well as that, there was a lot of abilities and stuff missed by myself on my own army side, but potentially on Josh's side as well. But there's a lot of things that you can miss in this game with regards to hero abilities and all that sort of stuff. And one of those things that I missed was one of the spell keywords called unlimited. So each of your wizards in your army has like a power level, and that dictates how many spells they can cast each turn. So the wizards that I had on my team during this game were the Skink Star Priest, which is just a level 1 wizard, doesn't really do too much. A couple of cool abilities that they have, which again I missed out on during the hero phase, and then the Slan Star Master, which is the level 3 wizard, which is pretty sick. In the magic section in the core rulebook, there's like a paragraph that says jealous wizards or fickle gods or something like that, and it says that you can only use one spell per turn of that name, basically, unless that spell has the unlimited keyword. So one of the spells that I have access to in the Lore of the Primal Jungles Seraphon magic is a spell called Light of Chotek, which is like a healing spell, which is very good. I managed to use it a few times towards the end of the game, where I realised, oh, this is an unlimited spell. I can cast it as many times as I like. And it paid off towards the end. I didn't really notice that or realise that until the very end, where I needed it to. Funny that. But yeah, so any spells that have the keyword unlimited on them, you can use as many times as you like, which is pretty cool, because in the Lore of the Primal Jungles there is ability which allows you to heal multiple times. It's called the Light of Chotek, which is pretty good. So the Slan Star Master managed to heal my Carnosaur 3 times in the same turn, which removed 7 damage from it, so it healed half of its life back in one turn, which is pretty sick. So wizards are pretty good. And I've heard through the grapevine and just searching around online that Seraphon are pretty good with their magic and they're quite reliant on it. So one thing that I'm probably going to be using as well, and trying to remember, is passive abilities of my heroes as well, because there was one passive ability on the Slan Star Master called the Arcane Vassal, which allowed him to cast any spell he wanted as if he was within the range of another wizard, or had the range of another wizard in your army, which seems pretty good if you have little linchpins on your army, which allow you to sort of cast spells from anywhere on the battlefield where you control a wizard, which is pretty cool. So I'm thinking that probably next time I'm going to have my Slan Star Master in the center of the board, and then have 2 Skinks or Star Seers or Star Priests on each side, because then he'll be able to cast spells as if he was in that position, basically. So yeah, not really making the use of that ability, which I think could be pretty good, because it means you can heal as long as you've got sort of wizards set up all over the board. You've got the range of those wizards from the Slan Star Master, so you can cast 3 spells from all of those positions, which could be quite good, just being able to heal all of your units all over the battlefield. So yeah, a lot of passive abilities that we missed out on. And I'm just trying to flash up some now, because I took a load of pictures as to some passive that I missed out on. So yeah, the ability of the Arcane Vassal is what's going to be on screen right now, is pick a friendly skink wizard wholly within 18 of this unit to be the target, measure the range and visibility of the next spell used by the Slan Starmaster from the target instead of this unit. So yeah, that's pretty sick. It just allows him to sort of extend his range across the entire battlefield depending on what other wizards you have in play, which is pretty cool. And another awesome ability that didn't really come into effect that the Slan Starmaster had was the Celestial Reinforcements. So that's pretty sick. Comes into play really late on in the game when a lot of your heroes and models and stuff have been slain. Yeah, I got to cast this once, unfortunately, and it failed. And then my Slan Starmaster died, so he wasn't able to bring back a unit. But this is a pretty sick ability as well. So just basically roll a dice, and on a 4+, you set up a replacement unit with half number of models from the target unit, rounding up wholly within 12. So that's pretty sick. So I was trying to revive 5 Saurus Warriors from the Saurus Warriors unit that died during the game, and unfortunately for me, I did not roll a 4, so I could not do that, unfortunately. So yeah, a couple of abilities that I missed out on. Another thing that I missed out on as well was because of my battle formation, because of my Eternal Star Host battle formation, I basically have teleporting dinosaurs. So this is another thing that I could use during my movement phase that I just completely forgot about. During my movement phase. I can essentially teleport my units wherever they want to go. And the great thing about this as well is it, as I said here, or as you can see it on the screen now actually, pick a friendly Seraphon unit wholly within 12 of a friendly Seraphon wizard. So that's the only downside. They need to be within 12 of a wizard. But that's normally the case because your wizards are marching with your army most of the time. And then roll a dice on a 3+, remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. So that is insane. Having a teleportation ability stapled onto your movement phase is absolutely insane. Obviously, you do have to try and get that spell off, and the units do have to be wholly within 12 of the caster of that ability. But being able to just throw out any unit of your pleasing that's next to a wizard to anywhere on the battlefield 9 inches away from enemies, I think is pretty sick. And Josh had an ability with his Krondys. He was playing a big, massive dragon, which I did manage to kill during the game. But Krondys was set up in the Celestial Realm, which is a nice little deployment phase ability that allows Josh to put a character or unit aside, away from the game to begin with, and then just like literally deep strike them in to the game later on. And that was absolutely key to another part of the game, which I'm going to explain later, which I found a little bit underwhelming. But yeah, so it was really cool. I missed out on a few abilities there. Another thing as well that I missed out on one of the Skink Star Priests was his Serpent Staff. So this is another hero phase ability, which I could have activated every single turn, but there was just so much going on, like magic from the Slan Starmaster. What magic can I use? I didn't know that I had limited spells, as I mentioned before. So I just completely missed the Serpent Staff ability. So again, you can see it on screen here. Pick a friendly Seraphon unit within a whole of 18 inches of this wizard and roll a dice on a 2+. So basically this is going to go off every single time, most of the time, right? The target's melee weapons have crit auto wound until the start of your next turn. So this Skink Star Priest with his Serpent Staff basically just makes all of your 6s auto wounds, which are just fantastic. And I was rolling quite a few 6s because I've got quite a few units in my army. It means that you're rolling quite a lot of dice, so to convert those 6s into auto wounds is pretty good because you don't have to roll. If you roll to hit, then if you get the hit on the critical, then you just bypass the save and go straight to wound, which is pretty good. Yeah, and obviously they have to then try and save that and then ward it potentially. Well, actually, no, yeah. So you have to roll to hit, roll to wound. You essentially just bypass the wound phase and go straight to save and ward. So yeah, skipping an entire phase of trying to deal damage is pretty good on a 6, and I wasn't using it the entire game. So a lot of abilities that just went to the wayside, unfortunately, in this particular game. But again, you live and you learn. So yeah, so that was that. But apart from forgetting all the abilities, or forgetting a lot of the abilities there, the game was pretty well balanced, pretty well matched. And I just want to go through one of the MVP units of my army, which just seems to have a great impact every game, and that's the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. So in the Spearhead box, it comes with an Old Blood on Carnosaur. The Old Blood is different to the Scar Veteran. The Old Blood does have a ranged attack, as well as obviously the Carnosaur can just rip things apart as normal. But I opted for the Scar Veteran because it has a awesome end of turn ability, and it just has better attacks on its own, because the Scar Veteran is more of a melee attacker, whereas the Old Blood I think is just more of a versatile creature to have on top of the mount. But yeah, the Scar Veteran has this extra ability at the end of turn, which is pretty sick. I can't remember what it is. I haven't got it up at the moment, so I can't tell you what it is. But also, the Carnosaur in this game, we also played with heroic traits and artifacts of power. So the Carnosaur, the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur had the Blood Rage Pendant, which is absolutely insane. Just adds 1 to your characteristic, your attack characteristic, and then if you're less than half life, I think you add 2 to your attack characteristics, which is just absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. The Scar Veteran on Carnosaur alone, on its own, without any Blood Rage pendants, is still a very savage attacker. So to have extra attacks, and then when it's low on health, have an extra 2 attacks, that kind of also negates the fact that when you have taken quite a lot of damage, your Carnosaur's massive jaw actually drops in its attack characteristic because of its battle damaged mechanic. So yeah, it is absolutely awesome to have the Blood Rage pendant. Josh was like, wow, this is just doing so much work, and it really was. But also, I had the heroic ability of Being of the Stars, which basically meant that there was no save modifiers allowed against the Carnosaur, so it just wasn't able to be rendered, which was fantastic. So I was just rolling its 4-up save every time, or at least from memory, it's a 4-up save. It should be. Maybe there's an image on here to correct me. But yeah, those two things combined on my most powerful aggressive unit was absolutely savage, and this Carnosaur did manage to do most of the damage and take out Krondys, which was Josh's big dragon, despite it being 200 points less than Krondys. So it just goes to show that the Carnosaur is absolutely savage. So yeah, always the MVP of my games, the absolute Carnosaur, and the fact that I chose the Scar Veteran just means that he can do extra damage at the end of turn if he's done damage to a unit that turn, which basically what it does. I might flash it up on screen for you now, but I can't read it because I haven't got it in front of me. But it basically just means that if you've done damage, I think it's called like Maim and Tear, I think it's called, the ability on the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. But yeah, very, very cool. So I really, really love that unit. There's a couple of units that were underwhelming for me, though, and one of them was the Bastillodon, which I'd only just built last week. The Bastillodon just didn't really do much at all. But I think that's only because he was targeted. The Bastillodon was targeted by Krondys very, very early on. So Krondys obviously started off in the Celestial Realm, and then after the first battle round, then Josh decided to bring in Krondys as part of his movement phase from the Celestial Realm, and then he made it so that he could basically drop behind my lines and start attacking the Carnosaur, not the Carnosaur, the Bastillodon. So yeah, that was pretty savage, and I think the Bastillodon just didn't really have a chance against Krondys there. That's probably why it felt underwhelming, because it basically got maybe 2 shots off with its Sun solar engine. So it just didn't really partake in the battle whatsoever. It tied up Krondys for a while, which might have been able to help my early to mid game strategy of just holding and seizing the center. But yeah, the Bastillodon was just not meant for that world, that game. Another hero that sort of didn't seem very good was the Raptidon Hunters. So they're pretty good little skirmishers. Obviously, they can capture command points quite early because they're very, very quick and nimble around the battlefield, but their range attacks weren't too great because you only get 10 attacks with them, because they get 2 attacks each and there's only 5 in a unit, so you don't really get too many attacks. That didn't really feel very good when you're shooting with them. And also their actual melee attacks aren't very good, and their sort of passive ability, which allows you to interact with other Raptidon chargers or Raptidon units, just didn't really come into effect because I only had the 1 set of units there. So probably wasted a bit of points there trying out the Raptidon Hunters. I thought they would be pretty good early games, try and capture some command points and get some points early. They did allow me to score on the objective and seize the center in one of my earlier turns. but it didn't seem like they were doing too much during that game, unfortunately. So, so yeah, I would probably reconsider the Raptidon Hunters next time, depending on what's going on. Didn't play any Croxagores this game either, and they are absolute bruisers. So yeah, I missed them quite a bit. So yeah, they felt a little bit underwhelming. And then also the Skinks. The Skinks are always pretty decent. Absolutely love the Skinks. They're obviously, I reinforced the unit as well in this game, so I had 20 of them. And there was a moment in this game which I think was pretty pivotal, where my Skinks scored 10 wounds on Lord Commander Bastion, and he had to. I think Josh had to roll 5-ups, I think, to save, or 4-ups to save, and he just saved every single one of them. Every single one was saved. 10 damage coming in. I think it was damage. I think it was actual damage. He had to ward it, basically, and then he rolled every single one was warded, or something like that. But I got a ridiculous roll. I was doing 10 damage, and Josh didn't take a single point of damage from 40 attacks from Skinks. So, yeah, I think Skinks are pretty good. They can really sort of dart around the battlefield. They have ranged and melee attacks. They're a huge swarm of creatures, so yeah, it's always good to have that. It's a nice little presence on the battlefield. So yeah, I always love the skink units. I think they're pretty cool. And there might be a challenge, a stupid video coming up, like, can 2,000 points of skinks beat 2,000 points of something else? Just skinks all over the board, basically. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for today's video on Age of Sigmar. Just going over a few things that we missed yet again, or I missed this time. But hopefully, with each time we play, each time we record a video, each time we get our thoughts out there, it's sort of laying the foundations and getting the building blocks to actually play more interactive games and make sure that we're not missing any ways of getting these little advantages here and there to make sure that the games are the best that they can be. But that game was pretty sick. Only 2 points in it, and Josh won on the Stormcast yet again, piloting his Krondys for the first time, which is pretty scary to see. But yeah, just the main takeaway is just make sure you trigger all of your hero abilities and try and make the most of those when you can. Because they add a lot of value to your game, and obviously make sure you do the priority roll as well. Loads of things that I missed out on. Another thing that was missed was, I believe, we didn't really pay attention to this rule at all, and that was the moving into combat range of units. Now, when you're making sort of normal moves with your troops, with your heroes, etc., you can't move into combat range with other units using a movement ability. You can only move into combat range if you're using something like a charge ability. Now, the centre of the board was getting very congested towards the sort of mid to late game, and I think there was a lot of movement going on which couldn't have been done with normal moves unless you were trying to charge in to combat. So I think there was a lot of hiccups there, where because the combat ranges of your units are 3 inches from all the sides of the base, so I think there was a lot of movement that we couldn't have really done, albeit going back and trying to figure out if that was the case is difficult. But that's something to take note of as we go into future games, is not being able to move within 3 inches of another hero. If you're using a normal movement ability, you do have to go round the combat range of that unit, unless, of course, you're ending within 3 inches, just on the outskirt of that combat range, and then using your charge ability to charge the rest, which, again, the charge phase is a separate phase anyway, so that's what that's for. So, yeah, I think we missed that as well. But that's pretty much it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.